And now, Superhuman Shaq.
I keep telling them not to say that. I'm no superhuman. Believe it or not, I struggle with moderate obstructive sleep apnea, or OSA. In adults with obesity, moderate to severe OSA is a condition where breathing is interrupted during sleep with loud snoring, choking, gasping for air, and even daytime fatigue. Let's just say it can sound a lot like this. Sound familiar? Learn more at don'tsleeponosa.com.
This information is provided by Lilly, a medicine company.
'Tis the season of gifting and halls to deck, and the Who's and Who Newville were in love with new tech. Where can we find Sonos and Samsung and Nintendo, they shouted. Would they find it in one place? This they questioned and doubted. When suddenly a Who yelled, Walmart's the place to start! And each Who added headphones, TVs, and games to their carts. With Walmart, their shopping was done in a flurry. They cried out, "Who knew?" and ordered their gifts in a hurry. Shop the latest tech gifts in the Walmart app.
Get ready to shop Lowe's Black Friday doorbuster deals to save $150 on a 30-inch Blackstone griddle, now $299. Plus, choose a Whirlpool top-load washer or Midea top freezer refrigerator for just $398. These limited-time doorbuster deals go fast, so get holiday ready today at Lowe's. We help, you save. Valid 11/28 through 12/1. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
Welcome back to Big Little Lessons. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Kristine.
We've learned that the lessons that start in kindergarten often carry us all the way through life.
So today we're thrilled to welcome Elisa Sagardia. Welcome.
Thank you.
A college counselor with over 20 years of experience helping students and families navigate the journey from high school to college.
Elisa has worked in both private and public schools here in Los Angeles, served as an AP and PSAT coordinator, and holds a master's degree in school counseling. So, she really knows the ins and outs of the process. Personally, I met Elisa her first year at our school when my oldest daughter, Lindsay, was a freshman in high school. Fortunately, Lindsay was assigned to Elisa for all 4 years of high school. And my family and I agree that Elisa is the very best.
I agree too.
Yes, you do. Yes. She helped in more ways than one in finding the best fit college for both of my girls. And she, in the goodness of her own heart, helped my niece as well.
So here's what makes Elisa extra special, I think. Before her career in education, she performed on Broadway and in national tours, bringing creativity and heart to everything she does. She's also a California native and the proud farmer's daughter, and an animal lover who's even adopted a squirrel. I mean, how many people do you know that have adopted a squirrel?
I know her, Elisa. So we invited Elisa because we wanted to talk about what we call the bookends of education, those early kindergarten beginnings and the final high school years, and how the lessons learned in those early days show up again when students are ready to take the next big step.
So, Elisa, welcome to Big Little Lessons.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
And for listeners, just so you know, we've been talking for about an hour and a half because we enjoy each other. I'm so excited for you to get to know Elisa. We like to begin by asking, do you have your earliest school memory, something that stands out to you? There was preschool,
yes,
kindergarten, first, second grade, something that stands out.
Well, I have a lot, but the one that I think is most meaningful to me is it's actually not a memory of my student experience, but it's a school memory because my mom was a teacher. Oh. So it is a memory that has to do with me going with her to school. Mm-hmm. So she she was a Head Start teacher. I don't know if you're aware of Head Start. This memory is, I must have been 3-4 years old at the time. And I now know a lot more about Head Start. So if you were to Google it, you will get a full picture of what the Head Start program is all about.
It's a great program.
Yeah. It is, and I think it's a very important program.
Remind listeners what Head Start.
The Head Start program, this was in Fresno, California, many years ago. As I said, I was around 3 or 4, so it was a few years ago. The Head Start program, it's a federally funded program for low socioeconomic demographic. And it's 0 to 5 is the age range. And it is also a program for pregnant women. So I think that it's possible that it has expanded since my mom worked there. But the thing that I think is important to know about this memory is that I didn't know any of that. I didn't realize that I was going to be going into a very different kind of neighborhood and environment. So my mom's school was probably about a 30-minute drive from our home. And I would be in the passenger seat looking out the window. And one of the things that I vividly remember is how the scenery would change, the neighborhoods would change. And this is where it's kind of like the power of framing a situation. So the things I would notice is I would start to notice that on doors and windows, there would be bars. And on walls, storefronts or homes even, there would be sometimes writing or what I thought were pictures. And so I would ask my mom, why are there bars on the, we don't have those. And this is what I think is so beautiful. She said, some people like to adorn their windows and doors with decorative wrought iron. And I thought, that's so cool. And then when she was describing what now I know was graffiti, she described it as art. She said, some people like to put artwork up on their walls. So I thought it was cool. Why weren't we doing that? But there was nothing about it. There was no stigma. There was no negative connotation. And she was allowing me to form my own opinion. And what I was feeling when I saw it was positive. It was beautiful to me. What I later learned was that it was a high crime area. There was a lot of gang activity, and these are things that people don't usually associate with positive things. But my innocent, unjaded, untainted mind was finding the beauty in it. Oh. And so many of I could go on and it would take up probably hours, but the entire experience, the students that she was teaching, we now know the demographics. I didn't see any of that. I wasn't aware of that. I didn't see differences in the students. I just saw like any other younger student who sees an older one. I would see the girls I would look up to because they had such beautiful hair. I remember there were these two twins. They had the most beautiful hair, and their mom would braid their hair and she would like weave a ribbon through it. And I wanted my mom to do that with my hair.
Did she?
She tried sometimes, but my hair wasn't as good as their hair. But it was, to me, that was just so cool. And she didn't try to assert any of her opinions. And she allowed me to form my own ideas and reactions to things. And that, in a way, kind of like what we're going to be talking about later, too, is like that whole letting go, how she wants to manipulate how I see things. And that memory to me is really special because it really shaped the lens through which I see the world today. And so I'm really thankful to my mom for that. And as I was sharing earlier, I lost my mom in 2021, but we're going to be talking about, she's going to show up today. Hopefully I'll be able to kind of bring her back to life in this.
I love that.
It's a beautiful memory.
Was she your teacher too?
She was not. My mom, once I started school, she became a full-time mom. So she was only a teacher up until I think I was maybe 4 years old.
Okay.
But education was always very important to her. And she was always looking for those teaching moments throughout life.
Sounds like an incredible
Yeah, she was
woman.
awesome.
Now we know why you're so great too.
Well, thanks to Mom.
While you were describing that memory, it just reminded me of when we're little and we see the world through our senses, right?
Right.
That was such a beautiful way of describing it, the way you were looking at it and what you were noticing.
Now we're going to shift a little bit because we are so fascinated about your college counselor now.
Right.
We heard a little bit about your earliest school memory, but in between all that, you were also on Broadway. And so tell us a little bit about your journey from the stage to the counseling office. Where does Broadway fit into all of that?
Right. I'm assuming Broadway came first.
It did. Well, the thing as many of my stories in life are, it was nothing about this was planned. So really, when I started off in college, I got my degree in psychology. So I did not study theater. When I was young, I took dance lessons and voice lessons, and I was involved in community theater when I was very young. And then I became a teenager, and it wasn't cool anymore. So I just did the normal teenager things. And when I went to college, I attended UCLA. Go Bruins. But I was a psychology major, and I was very, very interested in, I wanted to be a therapist at the time. So in a way, where I ended up is not, it's where I originally thought that I was going to start. But life sometimes has other ideas. So when I graduated, I got my degree in psychology, and my plan was to take a year off to study for the graduate entrance exams. And then I was going to be applying to, at the time, I was even thinking of PhD programs. And then my college sweetheart, to whom I had recently become engaged, he was killed in a motorcycle accident.
Oh, dear.
And it was, no one
so
saw that coming. And that was one of those things where, because I was always a planner, and I realized I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. And it changed my perspective completely. So I just kind of shut down for a while. I went back home, and I just kind of wanted to be in my room in my old house, and I didn't even want to figure out what was going to be the next chapter of my life. And then during this time, I received a phone call from a former dance teacher who said, I remember you loved that musical Evita. And it was one of my favorite shows. I had seen it when I was like 12 years old.
Wait, is Evita the Elton John?
No, this is Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yes.
It was one of the first musicals where there's no dialogue. It's all singing. And it's so beautiful. They made a movie of it years ago.
Yes.
So, but I had, when I was younger, I had the album, the original soundtrack. There was one song that was sung by a character known as Perron's mistress. The song is called Another Suitcase in Another Hall. It's beautiful. And it's all about this young woman whose life is never going the way that she expects. It's like one relationship after another. She's finding herself out on the streets with just nothing but her suitcase, and what happens now? And that's a repeated verse. So what happens now? And so that musical, Evita, the national touring company, was passing through Los Angeles. I was in Fresno at the time. So my former dance teacher called me and said, they're going to have an open call. I didn't even know what that meant. For Perron's mistress. Isn't that the one who sings that song you liked? And I thought, And so long story short, she encouraged me, just like, go and do it. You have nothing to lose. You haven't left the house. I also hadn't eaten in a while, so I was very thin and wafy. And it's kind of funny because in the casting call, I guess they were saying waif-like. Well, I had that. And when I got there, it was in Hollywood. My friend drove me. I wasn't even strong enough to drive the 3.5 hours, so my friend drove me. And I got there, and I walked in, and they asked me if I was equity. I didn't know what that meant, but they were asking if I was in the union. I wasn't. So they said, go sit over there. And I sat in the corner for about 3 hours, and I just listened to people go in and sing the song, and they all sounded wonderful. And then at one point, a gentleman walked out. I found out he was the musical director, and he said, you're all coming in and you're singing the song really beautifully, but no one's really feeling it. So please, think about what you're saying. And I waited another 30 minutes. And then finally, I think it was one of the last ones, if not the last one, to go in. And there were 3 people at this table, and there was a guy at a piano, and they all looked like they were over it. And I just remember looking over him, almost hit it. And he started playing, and I hadn't sung in so many years, but I just started feeling the song because it's what I was going through. And I was closing my eyes and singing it. And I opened my eyes and I looked, and all 3 people were crying. Oh, yeah. And I guess
giving me the chills.
I'm selling it because I was, but it's not that I was this great actor or anything. It's just that I was just thinking about what's going on in my life. And then the guy put his hand up and he stopped the piano player. And I thought, well, they're going to kick me out of here. And he just said, you got it. You start on Monday, and we're flying you to Vancouver. And that's how it all began.
I have goosebumps.
I do.
So no one saw that coming. And I look back and laugh now because the reason I was so thin and waif-like was because I hadn't eaten in weeks. And like I said, I had no formal training as an actor, but I was just thinking about what was going on in my life and what I was singing about. So that's how it all started. And I did that for about 14 years. And
Just 14 years.
About 14 years.
In Vancouver? That's
So
where
I
you-
started off in Vancouver. That's where the national touring company was. And then we would just travel throughout Canada and the United States. So I did Evita. And then right after that, I did Fiddler on the Roof for 2 years. It was so funny. And each time my character, I was getting older, but the character I would play would get younger. and I was culturally diverse. So I started off in Evita. It was supposed to be Argentina.
Argentinian, yes.
And then Fiddler on the Roof, I was one of Tevia's daughters. And then the last one I did, the one where it was on Broadway, was Peter Pan. And then I was like really young and I was a British child. All of this while I'm getting older. But there was a point I remember when I was getting ready, and this was Peter Pan, and I was putting on my wig and I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm now a 30-something with a big bow and playing like a 12-year-old. And I thought, this has been so much fun, but I think I'm ready to go back to what I initially wanted to do.
Okay.
So I thought, when this show ends, I'm not going to audition anymore. I'm going to find a graduate school, and I want to go back, and I wanted to be a therapist. So I enrolled in a school where I started off, it was marriage and family therapy.
Yep.
And I did that for 1 year, but then I decided I wanted to transition instead to school counseling because I determined that I wanted to work with younger people. And so that is how it all started. My first job as a counselor was in 2006. I worked at a public school for 5 years and then moved to the school where I am now.
And how long have you been at this current school?
This is my 15th year. So I'm going
gosh.
20 years now doing this stuff.
Isn't it crazy?
Yes.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Right? And is it, I'm sure we'll get into it. You've seen a lot of changes in those 20 years of college counseling.
Yeah.
So interesting.
And so what a shift from Broadway acting to going into counseling.
Huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
And you still enjoy going to see Broadway shows?
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. And I do miss it, but I don't miss the performing as much as the community. People who I worked with who were, like, whether it was Evita, Peter Pan, or Fiddler on the Roof, they're family to me. We will always be, even if we don't see each other for years, it's just like family. And they're my people, and hopefully I'm their person. But it's so different because when I was doing that, that's a very kind of a self-focused kind of thing. Right. You're getting immediate gratification. People are clapping after you do something. It's kind of strange to look back now, but after the show, people would wait out for my autograph. I'm like, what? You want my autograph? But after a while, it became, that was my life.
Yes.
And then you get to what I do now, and it's nothing about me. It's
nothing about
everything
you.
is turned inward to outward. Awesome. I love it, though, because that's really fulfilling.
Yes.
And that's also, as I've gotten older, I used to be all about what people think about me. Do people like me? And now I've gotten to the age where it's like, I don't really care what people think about me, but that's so liberating.
It's so liberating.
Oh, it's awesome. And now I can focus on other people. And that gives me purpose and
Yes.
joy. And when I turned the focus away from myself, as strange as it sounds, I become a more confident
Yes.
person. It's nice to not always be thinking about yourself or worrying about yourself. I don't know. There's something that really feeds my soul when I feel like maybe I can do something that's going to positively impact somebody else.
And that's why you're so good at what you do, right?
Yes.
I think we also have to mention that you are such an incredible animal lover. When you talk about your animals, your face lights up. You're so
Yes.
excited. You've literally adopted everything from a squirrel to a hedgehog, which is my personal favorite animal. So could you tell us a little bit about your animals?
Oh, yes. Well, that probably all stems from, well, two things. My dad is still a farmer. And then my mom, having been a teacher, she always had the different kinds of animals that she would bring home. So when I was little, there were rats, There was the snake that I accidentally killed my snake. I gave it a bubble bath. I didn't know. Don't ever give your snake a bubble bath. I didn't mean to. There were guinea pigs, which I have again now. And then out at the ranch, I had a horse. There was a goat that chased me. She had no teeth, though. There were sheep. There were dogs. My mom was known as the cat lady in our neighborhood. At one point, we had 13 cats. They were all outdoor cats. My mom was allergic to cats, but yet she couldn't say no. So I think that it all came from my mom. She loved animals so much, carried on to me. And then the hedgehog came along at my former school. One of my students had picked it up in Las Vegas and thought it would be fun. The fun lasted about 3 weeks and then decided, I don't really want to take care of this hedgehog. So I happily took it on. Her name was Lobster.
I remember Lobster.
Lobster. I loved her so much.
Could hedgehogs live as a pet in your house?
She was a little bit more instinct driven, but I want to say that she loved me and that she enjoyed our time together. I loved her so much. And then the squirrel that wasn't supposed to be, but it became my life I had my squirrel for almost 8 years.
I remember that.
And his name was Snurl. Yep. And he had been rescued. He had fallen out of a tree. A friend of mine had rescued him. My friend happened to be a vet technician. And the plan was he was going to keep the squirrel for a few days and then he was going to take it to. I was just going to be the person who was watching the squirrel for 2 days. I think he had to go out of town. And then he was going to come and pick it up. Well, during those 2 days, there was one point where it was time to feed the squirrel with the bottle. And the squirrel's eyes had been closed. And while I was feeding him, his eyes opened and we imprinted on each other. Oh. And wow. I don't remember saying this, but the person who was with me said that when it happened, I said, I feel alive for the very first time. Oh. And I said, this squirrel's not going anywhere. My friend tried to explain to me that I couldn't do that in the state of California. You can't keep a wild animal. I said, I'm going to find a way. So I found a way. I went through a course of squirrel care and rehabilitation and got my certification.
Way.
The squirrel was not releasable because he was tame now. So I got to keep him legally. And I had him for 8 years, and that became my entire life.
I remember you would say you'd work during the day.
Yeah.
And you'd come home and now it was Snurl time.
That was it.
And you would let him out of his... You had
his
kind of
very
large cage, and you kind of had little scratch marks on your arms.
Yes.
You're like, this is from Snurl.
Yes.
He doesn't mean to hurt me.
Yes, I had to explain. I didn't want people to get the wrong idea.
Yes.
It was my life, and everything revolved around him. Yeah. And I was okay giving up any form of a social life or just normal life. And when he passed, it took me a couple of years.
It was hard for you. I remember.
Yeah.
It was really hard.
And now I have just kind of an average menagerie of a dog, a cat, and a guinea pig.
It's amazing.
One thing that is standing out to me in all your careers and your pets is that you lead with your heart. And
The Who's down in Who Newville were making their list, but some didn't know Walmart has the best brands for their gifts.
What about toys? Do they have brands kids have been wanting all year?
Yep, Barbie, Tony's, and Lego. Gifts that will make them all cheer.
Do you mean they have all the brands I adore?
They have Nintendo, Nespresso, Apple, and more.
What about...
So the Who answered questions from friends till they were blue. Each one listened and shouted, from Walmart? Who knew? Shop gifts from top brands for everyone on your list in the Walmart app.
Welcome to Walgreens. Looking for a holiday gift?
Sort of. My cousin Freddie showed up to surprise us.
Oh, sounds like a real nice surprise.
Exactly. So now I have to get him a gift, but I haven't gotten my bonus yet. So if we could make it something really nice, but also not break the bank, that'd be perfect.
How about a Keurig for 50% off?
Bingo.
Savings all season. The holiday road is long. We're with you all the way. Walgreens. Offer valid November 26th through December 27th. Exclusions apply.
It's never too early for Lowe's Black Friday deals. Snag some of our biggest savings of the season right now, like 25% off select pre-lit artificial Christmas trees. And get yourself free select DeWalt, Cobalt, or Craftsman tools when you buy a select battery or combo kit before the Black Friday rush. Because everyone loves free stuff, right? Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 12/3 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Suffering from dry, tired, irritated eyes? Don't let dry eyes win.
Use Sustain Pro. It hydrates, restores, and protects dry eyes for up to 12 hours. Sustain Pro. Triple action dry eye relief.
That shines through no matter what you're doing. That's just who you are. And having those communities, and building those communities, whether it's a little furry friend or a person on Broadway or your students and parents.
So today's topic, which we're so excited about, is transitions from kindergarten to college. Like as Jenny said at the beginning, we're calling it the bookends. I think that's such a great way to think about it. You know, you're transitioning, you're entering in and you're exiting.
Yeah. So today's topic is we're talking about transitions from kindergarten to college. When we think about it, that first day of kindergarten is a real standout, and the first day of college. Both are such emotional moments for families, full of excitement and pride and a little bit of panic. Yes.
Right. And it's so interesting because they're years apart, right? They happen 13 years later. And we really, in talking to Elisa and just being able to see our students through, have noticed that the experiences are surprisingly similar in some cases.
Yeah.
So we thought it would be fun to explore like the parallels between the two, what it means to let go, to find independence, and also to start something new, which is happening in kindergarten and happening when they leave us.
Yes. So, Elisa, you've worked with families, including my own and Kristine's as well, through the college transition for years. And while we're seeing families at the very beginning of their school journey, I want to talk about connecting those two moments, the first day of the first day of kindergarten and the first day of college. So maybe Kristine and I can talk about that first day of kindergarten. And then Elisa, if you want to kind of talk about what it's like watching your students, because you work with them for 3 or 4 years before they go to college.
Right.
That experience of letting them go to their next step.
Because, well, for us in kindergarten, the buildup is real. It doesn't just happen on the first day. So we have a lot of lead up to it. There's a lot of communication with parents. We actually check in on Zoom with the families to get them comfortable. They meet us before school starts. They all come to campus to look at their classroom. They have play dates over the summer with one another. So we really want to make them feel safe and excited about what's about to happen.
Do you have things that you are intentional about helping kids close their time at school and moving to transition?
Yep.
One.
So a lot of our process, the guidance, we're taking a developmental approach, and we try to make it age and grade level appropriate. So we do start our programming in the 9th grade, and it's not necessarily, we're not coming at it just starting to talk about college, and we don't want students to already kind of have one foot out the door before they've even started, but we're trying to find ways to encourage them to really engage in their high school experience so that they're going to be able to provide a deeper, richer story when they are applying to college. Is like talking about what they've done as a high school student, what they've identified as far as what's important to them. But so we like to sprinkle the knowledge in a way that it doesn't seem super obvious. And it's all with the intention of helping them with that transition. If we're just doing little baby steps throughout the process, then they don't really see the mountain that they're starting to climb. The other thing that I have realized, and I'm sure that you see this when you are welcoming children into kindergarten, is that everybody's at a slightly different place, and that nobody's timeline or even goals is exactly the same, or even ability. Some people are a little bit more late bloomers, or others are kind of like how I used to be, where it's like they don't like change. They are so comfortable with kind of having very structured or almost like ritual schedule that if they start to have to feel like they're moving beyond that, they get very uncomfortable. They kind of want to go back to what's comfortable. So the other thing is that we really do try to get to know each student and the family, like the dynamic, to get a sense of how comfortable they are, where they are in the process. And some we know that maybe it's going to take a little bit longer. So we try to meet them where they are and then walk alongside them from there. But we don't want to push them if they're not ready to be pushed.
That's so similar to us in kindergarten.
Yes.
We often say we feel like a little bit like a private investigator. We're trying to figure out the family dynamic and the child in particular, because even when we worked with the same family that has 2, 3, 4 kids, of course, every child is different. And so what are their needs, and try to work with them in partnership to meet their best needs. So listeners, today with Elisa, we're going to unpack these topics. Number 1, independence and letting go. Number 2, the college process. Number 3, emotional growth and resilience. And number 4, parent adjustment. It's a thing. So let's first talk about topic 1, independence and letting go.
In kindergarten, we help little ones learn to say goodbye, hang up their backpacks, and follow new routines. But by the time they reach college, parents are learning to say goodbye. So it flips. I mean, so are students, but let's face it, it's really hard on the parents, and trust that their child can manage classes, meals, and laundry on their own a lot.
Yeah, so it's really two sides of the same coin. One child learning independence, one parent learning to let go.
So what advice do you give parents who struggle with that balance, wanting to help, but also knowing they need to step back a little bit?
Well, it's tough. I never want to overstep, and I want to be aware of the fact that I myself have never been a parent of human children. So I have to realize that, because I am someone who thinks it's important to be able to put myself in someone else's shoes before I'm giving them advice. And so I check myself with that. And instead of trying to give advice, I more will share things that I'm observing sometimes. Sometimes if a parent is having difficulty letting go or stepping back, I will show them what I'm observing as far as what I'm seeing it doing to their student. Of course, I try to find a delicate way of doing this.
Yes.
But a lot of times, once I explain how I'm seeing it impact the student, it can change the way the parent is looking at the entire picture. I believe that all parents have the best of intentions. Sometimes they don't realize that what they're doing might not be positive. I will talk about maybe conversations I've had with the student, or concerns the student has, or maybe a heightened sense of anxiety that I'm seeing in the student. If you're having a hard time letting go or trusting, why do you think that is? And sometimes what parents will realize is they're maybe going back to their own feelings or their own experience when they were a student. Maybe they didn't feel like they had any support or enough support. And so they're trying to be what they think they needed or what they would have wanted. Maybe they're just doing a little bit too much. Or it could be that they're modeling exactly what their parent did to them, and they don't know any better because that was the only model that they had.
Well, one of the things that I remember so vividly, this was back in 2013, so a while ago, when Lindsay was a senior in high school. And Lindsay had been waitlisted at a school, and she was devastated. She was, and so I was feeding off some of her disappointment in being waitlisted. And I remember, now it's so funny, but she was like, I did everything for that school. And I'm thinking, you wrote an essay and you went to an orientation meeting. That's not a lot. But anyway, I couldn't see straight as a parent, and I was trying to be level-headed, but I just needed a little Lisa time. And so we sat in your office, and you could see I was nervous and I was worried, and what do I say to Lindsay, and how do we get through this? And what if the school doesn't accept her? Maybe she doesn't get off the wait list. And I remember you said this so calmly and confidently, and knowing you the way I know you, you meant it. You weren't just feeding me a line, but this is what you said. You're like, well, I'm going to say this, no, I'm going to say this confidently, 100% confident that this will all work out. And I looked at you kind of dumbfounded. I'm like, really? This is going to work out? It will work out. It might not work the way you think it's going to work out, But I want you to remember that. And I think that's, again, you lead with your heart. And you're so good at being able to read a room and adjust and help a parent know that it will all be okay. You're giving them perspective, which I think is key.
And also, I'm thinking of people listening who might not be able to have you as their college counselor, but just the advice of being reflective throughout this time.
Yeah.
You know? And I think for kindergarten parents too, because it is about, huge piece of it is about perspective.
Perspective. And so my next question for you is, having perspective, and you gave me perspective, how can parents build this confidence in their child during those first few weeks, whether it's the first few days of kindergarten or move-in day in college? How can you help parents build their confidence with their child?
Well, it might be a different approach depending on the parent and the student and their relationship, but I try to share my own experiences because I don't want to be explaining to them, because it's not like there is some set rule, but I like to share with them that so much of the learning process, when I think of what I learned and how I grew and developed in college, very little of it has to do with inside the classroom. It's all of the stuff outside where I was having to learn to navigate things, sometimes for the first time, making mistakes, sometimes a lot of them, and having to learn how to deal with setbacks. And you've all heard me talk about my mom already, and I just think that she was so magical. But I will say that my mom, with the best of intentions, did do a lot for me. Sometimes more. Sometimes she kind of could be that overbearing parent to some.
I don't know anything about
I don't either.
And most parents will say, like, I don't, but as we all know, it's coming from such a good place. And I did, it was coming from such a good place. But when she would do that, that would not allow me to learn or grow. And then when I got to college, whether she liked it or not, I was now going to have to figure these things out. And so what I say to parents is that the more that they can start allowing their students to have that freedom and that ownership,
like autonomy, right, over it.
While they're still here. So like when they're still in high school, starting to step back now, because now a parent at least can still be there to catch them if they take a big fall. So it's better to start now, because otherwise you're releasing them without any sort of a safety net or any tool belt or toolbox. Right. So that is the way that I try to approach it. It's more about knowing that we all are going to make mistakes sometimes. Nothing is ever going to be perfect. And no matter what, life is going to throw wrenches when we don't expect it, like my own situation. And so just allowing them to start to build those strategies and those life skills, but also knowing too that all of us, if we all talk through our life stories, we've all had to overcome things, and that's how we grow. If life was super easy and comfortable and never difficult, we would all be, I don't know, we'd probably just be little blobs.
You do grow in the pain and the frustration.
Yeah, it does. It is. So let's on to
let's segue into topic 2. Is the next big step. So once families start practicing that letting go and helping them kind of coach from the sidelines, the next question becomes, what's next? How do students and parents approach this new chapter of researching, applying, and choosing what's best after high school? Where do you start? Start at the very beginning of the research.
Okay. So at the school where I work, students are assigned to a college counselor in the fall of the junior year.
Okay.
So before that, in 9th and 10th grade, like I said, we have programming. They've heard from us different types of messages about how to engage in high school, things to start thinking about. And then that first family meeting, right before a student can schedule that meeting, we ask the student and the parents just to complete these questionnaires. And these are questions that are helping the college counselor go into that meeting with appropriate context. So it's asking students to describe the family dynamic, so we have that context, but also what their current goals are, and keep it more short term. So we're just asking them, what do you enjoy doing in your free time? What has been your favorite class? What has been your most challenging? When you envision your future college experience, what are some of the things that you're excited about? Just little things like this. And these are not tough questions. It's more just getting a sense of where they are right now. So we go into that very first meeting. Now we've got a little bit of information, but this is just the beginning of the conversation. And those early meetings are all about me just identifying what currently are the things that are most important to them. And also knowing that those things are going to change, but it gives me I know where to start the conversation. And then when students are beginning the college search, I will remind them of the things they talked about. So for instance, if a student says, right now when I'm thinking of my college experience, I'm picturing a lot of school spirit. I'm picturing a place where it's like a real college town. I'm thinking of a lot of greenery. And sometimes students get really, really specific. Sometimes it's a little bit more just general. But then I will say, okay, so the picture that you have in your mind right now, that aligns with, and then I'll show them colleges that I know that align with that right now. And then I will encourage them to research it. Go to their website or take a virtual tour, or if it's not too far, go and visit, just to see if that aligns with what's in your mind. This way, the entire kind of like the roadmap, the filters that we are using, these are all things that the student has identified. And this way we can ensure that we are approaching this from what's going to be best for the student and what is going to hopefully align with their goals, instead of us just coming up with some template of a list where we think this would be a good school for you based on what I think of you, or because I like it, or I don't want you to apply here. So this becomes very student-centered, and it's going to be really tailored to each person.
That's really cool. I would think also, it could be an emotional season, right? For parents want to be involved.
Yes.
The students are asking for independence, hopefully.
Yes.
I would imagine sometimes those expectations can get all tangled up.
Yeah.
So what do you wish parents understood about the college application process, like on the emotional side? You talked a little bit about it before on the practical side.
Well, so the whole college process, it can bring out things in people that they didn't know that they were capable of feeling or doing, behaviors. So that's one thing and we've all seen it, the big admission scandal, where good people were doing things that even they were saying, I didn't think I would ever do this, but alas, I did. So the first thing that I try to just share is just let's all recognize that this process has it's really gotten crazy, and it doesn't have to be. So sometimes I'll say, let's not let ourselves go there. Let's make that promise.
Yes.
Let's set the ground rules just for ourselves, that we are not going to allow this process to turn us into somebody that we don't want to be. So that's the first part of it. But the other thing that I think is so important to know is, okay, so when I started this, when I was first a college counselor, that was 20 years ago. At that time, I was typically younger than the parents that I was working with.
Yeah.
Things have changed now. Yeah. And now I happen to be like usually the same age as or older than. So when I started this, when I was talking to parents, they were usually older than me. And just that changes the dynamic as far as the way that I enter a conversation. So back then, it was more like I was talking to people who had more life experience, older. So I even took on a different role. And now that I'm the same age or older than, it's like now it's peer-to-peer, or even the older sister talking to the younger sister.
Wiser one.
Yes. And so it's changed the way that I even communicate. But the thing that is also so important to know is the college process now is completely different than the way it was when I started. So it used to be an apple, now it's an orange.
Wow.
And if a parent is coming into this, this is what usually happens. They're remembering the process the way it was when they went through it.
Right. It's easy to do that because it's a reference.
Absolutely. And that's the only one that they have. Mm-hmm. And if they do that, then they're talking about a completely different process. Basically, anything that applied then, that not now. And so I think that's just part of educating people about just how much the college application process has changed. One of the things that is hilarious to me is that, and I always share this with my students at some point in their process, and I will tell them, listen, guys, when I started this, there was no such thing as the internet. It didn't exist. When I applied to college, I literally, with a pen and paper, not even a typewriter. So I had to fill it out. If I wanted to learn about a college, there was no going to their website. There was no internet. I would have to call and ask for a glossy brochure that would come 4 to 5 weeks later. Or maybe if it wasn't too far from my home, I could drive there. But that was just one huge difference. And I remember one student said to me, wait, if there was no internet, how did your cell phone work? I was like, you're not getting it, kid.
It's hard.
It didn't. But that's all that. And some parents.
'Tis the season of gifting and halls to deck. And the who's and who Newville were in love with new tech. Where can we find Sonos and Samsung and Nintendo, they shouted. Would they find it in one place? This they questioned and doubted. When suddenly a who yelled, Walmart's the place to start. And each who added headphones, TVs, and games to their carts. With Walmart, their shopping was done in a flurry. They cried out, who knew? And ordered their gifts in a hurry. Shop the latest tech gifts in the Walmart app.
It's never too early for Lowe's Black Friday deals. Snag some of our biggest savings of the season right now, like 25% off select pre-lit artificial Christmas trees. And get yourself free select DeWalt, Cobalt, or Craftsman tools when you buy a select battery or combo kit before the Black Friday rush. Because everyone loves free stuff, right? Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 12/3 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
At Capella University, learning online doesn't mean learning alone. You'll get support from people who care about your success, like your enrollment specialist, who gets to know you and the goals you'd like to achieve. You'll also get a designated academic coach who's with you throughout your entire program. Plus, career coaches are available to help you navigate your professional goals. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
And so, like me, they're thinking of what it was like then. And their expectations for their students are based on what the competition was like back then.
Yes.
So because there was no internet, what was much more typical back in my day was that if people applied to a 4-year college, usually it was somewhere that was close by. And you did not have this worldwide competition that occurred with the internet, with the common application. Now I can apply to a college in Michigan or in the UK because of the internet. It's a much more global competitive landscape now. Another thing that parents will think of is like, okay, so my alma mater, I don't understand why my kid can't get in there. And we're talking about places now that have like a single digit admit rate. So even the college so UCLA now, we're probably hovering around an 8% admit rate. I don't think I'd get in now.
It's so competitive.
It's so competitive. Or like Stanford. I remember when I was in high school, there was this guy in my chemistry class. Well, I never thought he was that smart, but I now know he went to Harvard. He must have been pretty smart, but I don't know if he'd get in now.
Exactly.
So these are the things. It's also helping a parent know that the place where they went, it's so difficult. So if you're putting that on your child,
Yes.
it's like unrealistic pressure and expectations.
So when Gracie, my younger daughter, was in high school, I remember it was Christmas time. And we're getting in the car to go see extended family. She said this throughout the whole school year, but in particular it was Christmas. She's like, Mom, I am so sick of talking about college and where I'm applying. Can you tell the whole family, do not ask me about college? And so it leads me to this question. How can parents step aside healthy. What's a healthy tip that you would offer parents, like while their child, whether they're going to college or not, what is a healthy way to have a sideline so they're not saturating their child?
Well, and what you brought up too with Gracie is something that we hear all the time from students where they are saying, I don't want, that's all my parents want to talk about. When grandma comes over or aunt and uncle, like I don't, and I've even given the students some little nuggets just to get people to laugh. But what we will say to parents sometimes in our grade level events, because we want everybody to hear it, we'll share with them, this is what your students are saying to us. They're feeling so overwhelmed by this. They don't want to talk about it anymore. Or it's starting to really just taint their whole, feel like they're losing motivation because it's becoming something that's not fun, or it's stressful, or it's just too much. So sometimes we'll suggest that a family will agree to maybe come together to just almost like set a schedule where the college conversation is like it's off limits except for, and then maybe you choose that time. For some people, it might be 5 to 7 on Saturday, or Tuesday evening, dinner table talk, or whatever works for that family, but actually having to be intentional. Like, this is when we're going to talk about it. And the rest of the time, we're not going to.
I love that.
It's great.
I think
kids love it.
We can apply that for so many areas.
Yes.
Like, we're not going to just keep going over and over and over something.
No, what I'm hearing throughout your talks and your answers is that you're really using all what you learned when you were studying psychology.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we know, we've heard this word dream schools, right? And there's so much pressure around dream schools. What would you say to families trying to balance like their hopes of wanting to be in a dream school with like a realistic expectation? How does that work?
So what I have found is dream school, usually if a student comes back from visiting different colleges, and they'll pick that one, and it will be, of course, the reason it's going to be so competitive is because that's the school that everybody loves. So I ask students to really, really think about it. And is that their dream school, or are they enamored by that because of the perceived prestige? Were they in love with the brand? Or when they went there, was the experience one where they just felt so comfortable, where it was so easy to envision themselves there, where they felt comfortable going up to people and asking questions, or just felt really, really comfortable in their own skin?
That should be the real dream. That should be your dream school.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing that's
Great
so
point.
interesting to me is when I ask students that question, they'll say, so X university is my dream school, but what you just described, I had that experience at Y university. And then I will say to them, okay, let's talk about this for a minute. Then why is this your dream school? And it's always about something external, because, oh my gosh, if I got in there, that would be crazy. Or because that's like the number one school according to whatever stupid ranking there is that means absolutely nothing. Dream school, I have found what that is to students does not align with what is the best school for them, or even the place where they had the best experience. So I really try to point that out to them. And some students that we have discussed who were 13-year students at our school, it was so fun having that conversation. And one who just graduated last year, where in my office, there was that aha moment, because had been focused on another university for months. And every time I would ask the questions, like, she couldn't completely admit it. And then she went and saw the university where she is now, and where she's so happy, which is a fantastic place, and it's the right place for her. But it was that moment where she realized what I am calling my dream school is because of what other people think about it, or how I would feel wearing that sweatshirt, like what that brand stands for. But when I asked her to think of 4 years and just every minute of the day that you are filling in the people you want to be around. It quickly became a no-brainer for her to realize that's not really my dream school. The idea of that place that I was in love with.
And that's what I love about your whole college counseling office. And for you, what joy that has to bring for you and the student that together you reshaped her dream school and found the best fit for her.
Right? Working so hard on shifting their mindset or their perspective and the way that they were looking at it.
So let's go to our next question, which was helping parents focusing on, instead of rankings and reputation, what everyone else is doing. I mean, there's so many components to it.
It kind of fits in with the dream school, right? So like there's an image that of the highest ranking. I know when my stepdaughter was applying to art school, the best school in animation in the world. So she applied to a school in Paris. That was her dream school. And she didn't end up going to that school for a lot of different reasons, but I think it's really relevant throughout this process.
Yep. A lot of times when parents are thinking of the college that their child is going to attend, it sometimes becomes more about them also, like thinking of the sweatshirt you're wearing. Sometimes it's like the bumper sticker that they want to be able to put on their car.
Yes.
But
I get that.
And it's, I believe, again, it's coming from a good place, or maybe they just haven't really thought about how that is being received by their student. But one thing I think is very important for everyone to know is these rankings, the factors that go into a college ranking, it's not based on student satisfaction or happiness. It has nothing to do with the student experience. It has things to do with the admit rate or the average admitted score range or GPA. These are things that have nothing to do with the student's experience. And really, I think they're completely irrelevant. That's why I get mad at rankings, and I just think they're stupid. And that's when it brings out the little child in me, and I throw a little tantrum. I wish they didn't exist. And I think that it can really cloud a person's ability to then focus on the factors that are important to them. Now, the kind of ranking that I'm all for would be for a student to identify what's important to them, and then they can rank that. That's fine. That's great. But those external rankings, no.
Okay, I love that. And I want to shift it because not all the high school students want to go into a 4-year program.
There was a shift where everyone went to college, and now I feel like there's a little bit of a shift where I have 5 kids and not everybody is on that path, and it's not a straight line for everyone. Yeah, can you talk about that? Do you have students who just say, no, college is not for me?
Is there some meaningful options that you suggest?
Definitely. So at the school where I'm currently working, I don't see it as much because it is a private college prep school. Most of our students do plan to go to a 4-year college, but not always. Every year there are a handful who have a different idea or a different plan that is best for them. One of the things that I have seen at my current school is that sometimes we have a working actor who's they've already have a career. They don't need to go to college. Sometimes I will also see students do something that's called deferral. And it might be that they go through the process like everyone else. They are admitted to a college. They enroll in a college, but they defer their enrollment for a year because they have other plans. Sometimes, again, it might be someone who's already working, or maybe they just want to do life. Maybe there's a financial piece where they just need a little bit of time to build up for the cost of attendance. Then there's also gap year, which we have seen at my current school. We're seeing it more and more, and that is where a student truly takes at least a year off just to figure out what they want to do, because maybe they're still undecided, that they don't want to commit to something that might not be worthwhile.
And they can be a little burned out.
I mean, absolutely. After 13 years, like sometimes you just need that break. And in other countries, that is more of a norm anyway.
Yeah, it's expected. A gap year is normal in European countries.
That's right. You go and you figure out what you're going to do, and then you go and do that.
Now looking at things, it almost seems like everyone should have a year to work something.
Yes.
How often is it you know what you don't want to do? So maybe having a few jobs, thinking, well, I do not want to do this, and that helps you define what you're more interested in.
Absolutely. I think that a lot of parents and students feel like they're supposed supposed to. That is just the next step. You're supposed to go to a 4-year college. But I really think that, and I say this as a college counselor, I don't think college is right for everyone. And even a lot of the students that I work with right now, I'm thinking to myself, it's like not my place to say it, but I'm thinking to myself, I don't really think that's the best plan. But the other thing that I think is really undervalued, once again, is trade schools. Because with AI that is going to come along and it's coming, I don't know that AI is ever going to be able to be that electrician or that plumber or that HVAC person, especially growing up in Fresno, that, oh my goodness, we need you, or the person to fix your car. These are such important careers, services, and it almost makes me angry when people turn their nose up to something like that. And if we're going to be a little bit more superficial about it, those are also very lucrative careers.
Oh, yes.
100%. Lucrative.
Yes, I have a nephew who's going to be starting welding school, and it can be very lucrative.
And I know of someone, a family member, who has 2 advanced degrees from a little place called Harvard and a little place called Yale. And they're having a very difficult time because of what they chose to study. But I also have a family member who is an electrician and who is killing it. So it's like
there's a place in the world for everyone.
That's right. Right. And we're all different. And I think like if I'm a square, I should not try to fit myself into a round hole and vice versa. So I wish more students, and then there's community college. Oh my gosh, community college.
They're fabulous.
I'm a huge proponent of that. At my former school, it was very common. 61% of the graduating students would start at a community college. 38% at that school would go on to a 4-year college. And so that is something too that I think is undervalued, but it's so wonderful, especially if a student is really set on going to a UC or a Cal State. Starting off at a community college is the way to go. Saving 2 years of tuition, who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah, it makes financial sense because, again, colleges have gone up so much in price.
Oh, my goodness.
It's ridiculous.
It's, No, sometimes it's mind-blowing now that we're looking at full cost of attendance at some colleges close to $100,000 a year.
Well, no matter what a student transitions to their next step after high school, it comes with a lot of emotions, some with big feelings, so nervousness, excitement, maybe a few tears.
So our next section is going to be emotional growth, right? And resilience.
Yes. Yeah. So how do you help those students understand and prepare for, and parents, ups and downs, the emotional parts of this change, saying goodbye to a beloved school, or maybe not, maybe they're ready for change, but do you have some thoughts about how to prepare for closing one chapter and going into the next step?
We do. And this is something that we really want to prepare students and parents for, like the emotions and the feelings that are to come. So we also have programming where we bring in experts who really talk about that transition. There's I think they call it empty nest parent. We also have programming for students. The first thing that I think is so important for everyone to know is that these feelings are going to come and they're completely normal. If you don't have them, that's when we might worry. That, like, are you either pushing them down or do we need to talk about something that else that's going on? Right. But I try to prepare students so as it's getting later in the school year. Usually this is now once they've heard back from colleges, and now it's becoming more and more real. And what I will often see is if there are students who maybe are couples, they're going to break up.
Yeah.
They start fighting. Yeah. Or like best friends are now on the outs. Wow. And then I'm hearing from parents saying, I've always had such a wonderful relationship with my child, and now we are not getting along. And again, coming back from like the whole psychology training and what I learned, like these are self-defense mechanisms that we're doing. So for the couples that are breaking up, a lot of times they're thinking, well, I know that I don't want to do a long distance relationship. We're going to break up anyway. So let's just do it now and get the pain out of the way. So sometimes it happens before because they're trying to be preemptive. And then the same thing with those best friends. They know how hard it's going to be. They've been there. Yes. They've been each other's rock. And so they start to without like realizing it, they like little cracks, because that's going to be easier for them to be apart. And that's the same thing that we see with the parent and child dynamic, where suddenly they're not getting along because there's fear, but it's also, sometimes it's easier to say goodbye when you're on the outs.
Yes.
You know, Jenny, this is great because there's such a huge parallel right now, Lisa, with what we experience in kindergarten at the end of the year.
Yes. Oh, gosh, yes.
Everything you're describing, like spot on to a T, because the emotions are heightened. People are uncomfortable.
Yep.
So lots of things happen towards the end between parents and children and us. So
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All of a sudden, there's lots more tears. Everything's heightened.
Yes.
There's maybe more laughter, but there's also more like, what's happening? And there'll be more tears.
Yes.
It's all of it.
sometimes anger too, even.
Oh, yes.
You know?
All of the emotions. And what I have found is that we kind of tell people what to expect, because it's going to happen, but knowing that it's normal. And like I said, again, if it doesn't happen, that's when I'm worried.
Yes. So do you tell, I'm assuming you're telling this to
Parents. Yes.
We all need to hear this
So it's
message.
a really important part of the process towards the end.
That's and again, a big little lesson. Not only do we say at the end of kindergarten year, but anytime there's a big transition,
right,
or a change of some sort. So someone getting married or starting a new job, whatever it is. Well, let's go to number 4.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, parent adjustment and perspective. So, you know, those parents, sometimes we need a little pep talk. It's not just the kids. So,
well, also, like, I think about, you know, parents saying goodbye to kindergartners, crying at drop off, especially on the first day. I'm like, are you, your kid's okay? Are you okay? You know? And it's like those college, well, listen to this. I mean, I remember when Shane, he went to school in New York for a year, and I remember saying goodbye to him at Grand Central Station, and it was still masking time. And I had a mask on, and I was like ugly crying in my mask, hysterically. By the way, I grew up in New York. I'm from New York. I'd be going to see him all the time, and I knew he was okay, but I was like, I was gutted. I was literally gutted. So, what do you wish parents knew about their own emotional transitions at these stages? How could you have helped me? I needed you. I should have come to you.
Well, again, I would say that what you were feeling, though, it's normal. And on one hand, to ask somebody to either push that down or try to mask it, that's not going to be helpful either. So I would be asking a parent then to also kind of go deeper about, wow, you're really having quite a reaction to this. Go deeper. Like, why do you think, like, what are you fearful of? Or what is this bringing up for you? And I think that a lot of times, once a student is leaving for school, that's going to be a bigger shift and adjustment, I think, for the parent. And I've seen this a couple different scenarios. I've seen it where it's a married couple where this is the first time since before they had children that now it's just going to be the two of them. And they're going to kind of have to reassess their relationship. Right. Do we still like each other? Like, wait a minute, we don't have this, it's just us now.
Yeah.
Or there might be where it might have been a situation where there were older children that have gone, but this was the last one, and now it's so real. Or it might be a situation where the parent now is going to have to figure out who they are and what they're going to do with this extra time. So I would just encourage people to continue to just reflect on or think about the feelings that they're having, and maybe asking themselves, like, why am I having this feeling? And is there something then that maybe if I'm feeling really, really lonely, then maybe that means I find ways to create more of a community for myself. Or if I'm now being faced with this spouse that I'm not sure, like, maybe we're going to have a little bit more open communication. Yes. Or for some people, it's like, hey, maybe you got to go and adopt that pet because I need to have somebody just to take care of.
I found with both the girls, when they were away at school, if we had a date for when we were going to see each other next, that helped. And sometimes it was going to be a long time. It would be a couple of months, but it'd be like, okay, it's 9 weeks from Sunday, and then we'll see each other. But having a date when we could talk on the phone, but we'd have some sort of ritual to kind of keep it grounded. It's like, I'm not saying goodbye to you. It's a shift in the day-to-day for now. And for most of us, our kids come back from the house, and so they come and they go and stuff.
But yeah, they're coming back.
But it is a shift, and acknowledge and replan.
Yes.
Well, let's go into our next section. We're going to go into the speed round. So that's where it's not usually one. And I think I'm safe to say that you don't like to answer with one word anyway.
Oh, yes. I don't think I can do it. I can't do it.
Okay.
Keywords. So try to answer with the first thing that comes to mind.
If you could tell every parent one thing during application season, what would it be?
You've already had your turn, and now it's your child's turn.
I love it. And what about students, like to help them breathe a little easier and trust the process?
What's the one thing you tell students?
It's what I always say, always works out.
Say that again.
It always works out.
Yes, it does. All right. Favorite college campus you have ever visited?
UCLA.
Of course.
I love it. Still love it.
What advice would you give to every high school senior?
Lead with what you think is going to make you happy.
Beautiful.
What's one word that describes a great teacher?
I invested.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, This is a fun one. Musical you'd love to perform in again.
Evita. No thought there.
And I want to see you in it, Jenny, and I want to come.
Could we see you?
I don't think that there are. Okay, I do have on my phone a recording of me singing this, but this was at a benefit concert, but I have it on my phone.
Okay,
if you want to hear it.
I want to hear it.
We're gonna visit
yes. All right. Dream animal to adopt next.
Oh, a skunk. I want a skunk. Yeah, I want so many, but a skunk.
Can you get one deskunked?
I have held one that was.
Does it hurt the animal?
So this one just naturally did. That's why it was in captivity, because it couldn't protect itself. So, its name was Peanut.
Oh,
I helped. There was also Oreo.
I could see you with a little skunk.
Oh, I would. I would even take one that sprays. I don't care.
You're amazing. You truly.
That's a nice.
Final question. One thing you've learned from your students.
That they're all so different. No two are the same.
Amen to that. That's what we see in kindergarten too. They're all unique in their own perfect way.
They are. And that is why I always said there's no one size fits all approach to this, because we're all so different.
So amazing.
All right.
Wow,
so now we're going to our section.
So before we close, let's talk about our big little lessons. Jenny, what's yours from today?
My heart is so full because I love hearing from Elisa. She brings so much hope and confidence. I think my big little lesson from all that Elisa provided today was be child-centered, have the child set their own goals and follow their dreams. That goes on beyond the college experience too. Your whole life, you followed your dreams in so many different ways, unexpected ways, that it's not the parents' expectations. It's finding who you are and having your parents be along for the journey. I love that.
Yeah, mine's similar. I was really struck by the reminder that teachers and parents are both like college counselors, and teachers are trying to help kids identify their truest selves, right? And independence and resilience and just getting ready for what's next. And I love throughout the whole process how you kept bringing it back to the core of what really matters. And it was really incredible.
Oh, thank you so much. So we started a new thing for our listeners, a little optional homework. Do you want to say it, Kristine?
So listeners, as you listen to this podcast, think about your own transitions, right? Maybe your child's transition. Who helped you feel brave enough to take your first step? How can you be that calm, steady, like Elisa is, that steady presence for someone else today?
That's a great question. I hope you'll take a chance to review that and think about it in your own journey. Well, Elisa, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your wisdom.
Want it to end.
I know. No, we'll have you back.
Okay. You've given us so much to think about, and probably a few parents who are listening, hopefully a sigh of relief.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening to our listeners on Big Little Lessons.
And let's start at the very beginning.
We might not have all the answers, but we have a lot of experience.
So tune in next Tuesday for another episode of Big Little Lessons. Don't forget to subscribe and like.
The Who's Down in Who Newville were making their list, but some didn't know Walmart has the best brands for their gifts.
What about toys? Do they have brands kids have been wanting all year?
Yep, Barbie, Tony's, and Lego. Gifts that will make them all cheer.
Do you mean they have all the brands I adore?
They have Nintendo, Nespresso, Apple, and more.
What about...
So the Who answered questions from friends till they were blue. Each one listened and shouted, from Walmart? Who knew? Shop gifts from top brands for everyone on your list in the Walmart app.
At Capella University, learning online doesn't mean learning alone. You'll get support from people who care about your success, like your enrollment specialist, who gets to know you and the goals you'd like to achieve. You'll also get a designated academic coach who's with you throughout your entire program. Plus, career coaches are available to help you navigate your professional goals. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
On the job, every minute counts. That's why Lowe's now has ProBlock Quick Dry Primer, expertly manufactured by Sherwin-Williams. Engineered for pros to dry fast and go on smooth for virtually flawless results that keep your job moving. It's available in oil and water-based, and getting it is easy. Order online by 2 p.m. and get free same-day delivery right to your job site. Lowe's, we help, you save. Orders placed after 2 p.m. will be delivered next day. Valid in select zip codes. Subject to driver availability. More terms apply.